This is the cheapest, easiest way I can think of to make a shadow box. Now, is it for kids, or is it a cheap and easy way for grown-ups to do things with their collectibles? I don't know. Here's the thing. I sell custom shadow boxes for museum quality displays, heavy, delicate, valuable things, and I offer advice on how to do it up all fancy and safe like a museum curator. But what about less ambitious products? What about stuff that you value or stuff that your kids value? But beyond that, not so much. That's what this how-to is all about. Here's what you need. A nice cardboard box, a good stout one. You might find a shoe box or a gift box, but it does need to be stout and it needs to have a removable lid. If you're a collector of any stripe, you've got some kicking around the house. Somewhere along the line you bought something and it came in a box that was too nice to throw out. Now, failing that, let me offer you 5 other possibilities. The first is go to a packaging store if you can find one in your neighborhood. They have the best selection and the best prices, but you may need to buy a bundle of 25 or 50 of them. Number 2 would be a hobby or craft or art supply store. They have a good selection, maybe even some nice wood boxes. They're a little expensive. The office supply store will have mailers and such, but boxes with separate lids, maybe yes, maybe no. Fourth suggestion, any big old discount store that sells desk organizers or clutter catchers, the things you use to store photos. It's apt to be good and stout, and maybe even the color you want. You may have to pry off label holders and handles and such not, or just leave them on. My 5th suggestion is to make your own. Check out my how-to on making your own display stands. It's not as hard as it sounds, and rather than putting it flat, you put it on edge. Now, what you need is what you need, but you might get by with nothing more than a good pair of scissors, although more likely a utility knife, and quite probably a straight edge of some sort. A hot glue gun, a little amateur, but for about $2.95, and for some things, hot glue works great. You might need a hammer, or a good strong thumb for some thumbtacks. Besides your box, you'll need spray paint. You'll need it in a clever contrasting color. If you're not good with color, default to flat black. You'll need some ribbon, the wired ribbon you get from hobby stores, and once again, coordinate the color and all. Tape, double-sided is very nice, but masking tape or even Scotch tape if that's what you have on hand. Maybe you need some nice clear plastic, Mylar or something, again from the office supply or art and craft store. You may need to use a little imagination here. If you can't find it, repurpose something like a scrapbook or notebook insert. You can also leave it out entirely. Sheet plastic will keep the dust out, but it will glare. 5th thing you need, again optional, maybe some foam core. The 6th and final thing is 2 or 4 thumbtacks. The box I'm using is so old, I don't remember what came in it. I think it might have had software, but I like the size and the shape. In general, you either start with a box and select and arrange your collection, or you start with your collection and pick out a box. I'm afraid I don't have much advice for you here. It's kind of one of those whatever works things. So, first step, spray paint it. I don't usually like spray paint. It's expensive. But for a little job like this, it works great. Now I'm going to paint the inside of the bottom and the rim of the lid, but not the top of the lid. I'm going to be gluing stuff to it in just a second, so I want it naked. Perhaps the hardest part of the whole thing is to cut a nice neat window out of the lid. Scissors might work, but for stout pressboard, you're going to need a utility knife. Be careful with your fingers, and be sure to leave a little meat around the rim. This is where the strength comes from. Before we get carried away, see how it looks without the window. It's easy to add one later, but let's say you decide you want a window. Cut out a little bit of plastic, a little smaller the inside of the lid. This is where you use the double back tape. It's easiest, but masking tape up the sides will work almost as well. As to your display, I don't have much to say about sticking all your stuff in there. Well, I have a little bit to say. Hot glue, once again, very handy stuff. And maybe some little foam core shapes to use as spacers to bring things up off the background. These are good things. Don't ask me why I'm using a cell phone. It's a long story. But notice I'm using little foam core blocks to raise it up about ½ an inch off the background. I have to say I'm not good with fabric. It's too delicate and fiddly for my fingers. But here is a way that even a ham-fisted woodworker can make for pretty. Use the wire stuff. If you don't know about this, it is thin, bendy wire in the edges. Fold it into pleats and hot glue it down over the edge of your window, cover the inside edge of the window, and extend it beyond the edge of the box, and you've got an instant frame. As to putting it up, particularly in drywall, 2 thumbtacks in the top corners will work. If it's heavy, use push pins and or more of them. If your thumb is a tad puny, this is where you need to use the hammer. Gently. Well, that's about it. Other than to say that the art of shadow boxes is largely about gathering up wonderful things and arranging it all artfully. Or it's about gathering up ordinary or sentimental things and arranging them artfully. Let me know how it works out for you. Post a picture of your efforts to this blog. Thanks for watching.